Welcome back to Master Glass. I'm your host, Livio, and today we are going to dive right into the world of absinthe. Look at these beautiful bottles, different colors, different countries of production, different rituals, and different tools. This could be a little bit of a confusing category, but if you watch this video, I will take you to greener pastures. Get it? It's green? Anybody? Let's get into this. The history of absinthe is rather unclear. We do know that the Egyptians were using wormwood for medicinal purposes, and also that absinthe is mentioned a few times in the Bible, just very briefly, but enough to know that it was in existence. Really the absinthe as we know it today stemmed from a doctor by the name of Pierre Ordinaire, a French doctor who invented it while he was living in Switzerland in 1550s. The beverage became not only important for its medicinal qualities, but also became a favorite amongst the elite. And basically, in the roaring 20s, anybody that was cool was drinking absinthe. A lot of artists were drinking it, such as Toulouse-Lautrec and Baudelaire and Picasso and Ernest Hemingway. And so it became a very popular beverage. It was known as La Fée Verte, which means the green fairy, and because, of course, of its green color. And it just became so popular. Now, I feel like absinthe is a must at a bar, and maybe even more than one. So in this video, I'm looking forward to diving much more into it. Absinthe is a grape or grain-based spirit that is typically distilled with fennel, anise, and wormwood. And this last ingredient, the wormwood, really gives it this bitter flavor to it. Once it is distilled, it will come out clear in color, and then some producers will add either more herbs in it to give it a really natural green color. Some producers instead will maybe add some artificial coloring to it. Some producers will not add anything, so those are called blanche, which are clear absinthes. And believe it or not, in the Czech Republic, there are even red absinthes. So basically, once those three magical grains are distilled, you can also add other ingredients to it, things like hyssop or coriander that will give absinthe also a little bit of a lemon zest flavor to it. So in these bottles, you could always expect some licorice flavors. You can always expect some bitter flavors from the wormwood. You could always expect some citrus flavors, and you can always expect a little bit of an alcohol bite. Now, believe it or not, I'm not interested in much in the rituals. I'm actually interested mostly in what can the absinthe do for what I am trying to do from it. And obviously, now I should also mention that some absinthes, when water is added to it, they will start becoming opalescent, which is called louch or louche. And that basically is because the essential oils of the anise do not really mix well with water. And so when we're adding water into the absinthe, you're getting that chemical reaction that is opalizing your absinthe. Now, it's probably important to mention that absinthes come in really high alcohol content, 50 to 70%, which is why we add water to it, anywhere between 3 to 5 parts. Now, actually, the best way to drink absinthe is to add a lot of water and make it this refreshing afternoon, minty, bitter, eucalyptic aperitif, or just a thirst quencher. Absinthe was banned in the 1920s, and one would say, why was it banned if it was so popular? Well, the answer to that was because the wine industry used absinthe as a scapegoat to promote its agenda, and so did the temperance movement. Prior to in the late 1800s, there was a beetle called phylloxera, and phylloxera basically destroyed the vineyards of France and all over Europe, and so wine could no longer be made. Prior to that, wine was the base from which the alcohol of absinthe was made from, but the absinthe producers were quick enough to just move on to a grain-based alcohol and continue to make their product. Well, their product got popular, their product became more and more powerful, and when the phylloxera pandemic was finally resolved and the wine industry was ready to get back into business, it partnered up with the temperance movement and came out with this really fake narrative about thujone. Now, absinthe has wormwood in it, and wormwood contains thujone. Now, thujone is a mind-altering ingredient, but there simply isn't now, nor was there at that time, enough thujone to actually make you go crazy. And so all the videos and all those pictures you see of crazy faces and people going nuts drinking absinthe, those are fake. Because in essence, the amount of thujone that is in a bottle, in order for it to actually make you go psycho, you would die from the amount of alcohol you were drinking before that even happens. Now let's talk a little bit about the various accessories that are used in the various absinthe rituals. The first one to talk about is the absinthe glass, also known as the reservoir glass. And the reason why it takes this name is it has this little reservoir right here where the squiggle lines will stop and the more glossy surface begins. That is your portion of absinthe to put inside of the glass. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. There it is. Set that aside. And then the next tool that comes into play is the absinthe spoon. Quick shout out to my buddy Tony Abuganim from the Modern Mixologist. Tony, thank you for letting me borrow your vintage glass and your vintage absinthe spoon. So this spoon here is most always flat, might be just slightly concave, always has holes in it so that the water can make its way through, and always has this little groove right here so that when you put the spoon in the glass, right, it won't move around because the groove latches on to that rim of the glass. What is this ritual for? Well, because French absinthes are not sweet, so you put a little bit of a little sugar cube right on top, and next comes in the next tool, which is called the absinthe fountain. So this absinthe fountain here is going to just drip, and by the way, sometimes they drip even when they're not open. You're going to just open the right amount that you want. And you're going to let that fountain drip right over the sugar cube and let that sugar cube dissolve right inside of your glass, thanks to the water. Let that drip as slowly as you can. Now, the great thing about these fountains is they have typically 6 spigots, so 6 people can do this at the same time. I've also seen these fountains used several times for a shared cocktail service of some sorts. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move the glass a little bit so that I can get the water to touch the spoon, to touch the sugar a little bit more. And you can go about as much as you want on the water. Now, these glasses here are typically the portion that will give you 1 part of absinthe to all the way to 5 parts of water to the very top. I'm more of a 1 to 4 person, and 1 to 4 is also common, but that is a thing. Okay, so it looks like the sugar cube is dissolved. I'm going to keep on dripping. I'm going to just let any last part of that sugar to fall inside while dripping some more water in. Spoon goes away. Let me just add a little more, a little faster flow here, just like so. Okay. And now, thanks to your spoon, your fountain, and your reservoir glass, you can enjoy some absinthe. The next service ritual of absinthe I wanted to show you is the Bohemian style. This style here started about in the 1980s, and it's really frowned upon by a lot of absinthe experts. Having said that, if something has been going on since the 1980s till today, now there's about 40, 50 years of history going on. I feel like this ritual is a thing. You might not like it, and I'm not particularly a fan of it either. But it is a thing, so I'm going to show it to you. And the way this works is you're going to take your spoon, put it again on top of your glass. I'm not using Tony's this time. I don't want to burn his vintage spoon. But you take your little sugar cube and you put it right on top of the spoon just like that. And then when you pour inside of the reservoir this time, you're basically going to pour on top of your sugar cube. You want the sugar cube to be soaked with absinthe, just like that. Okay, I think I'm right at the reservoir, almost, there we go. Now, at this point here, things can be very dangerous because you have high alcohol and you have something that will, of course, ignite a flame that can really hit you in the eye. So a lot of people use a lighter, but whether you're using a lighter or not, I always recommend to pull this up and light your sugar, okay? Now you'll see that this sugar is burning, right? And so I'm going to take a step back and let's see that fire happen. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I can. And now as that sugar cube is burning, it's also melting and falling right inside of the glass. Okay, I feel like this flame is done. Now a lot of times what you can do too is you can actually put this in the glass as it's still flaming. Or you can just pour it directly in. I'm going to go ahead and do this right there, right now. And I'm going to just take this dissolved sugar, put it in there. As you can see from the heat, the glass is getting a little bit foggy. Set that over there. Now there's also the ritual that they do. It's quite a bit childish of having the absinthe flame, putting your hand on it, and when your hand is on it, it actually the fire actually starts sucking in your hand, and so you can actually pick up this glass with your hand. We won't get that far. We are honoring this new ritual, and so now you just add water to your absinthe, and you're good to go. The way I'm going to go about this is half an ounce of absinthe is in my glass. I'm going to start with France, and now French absinthes, you can expect a big, powerful eucalyptic, menthol, licorice component to it. They're bottled at 68% high alcohol, so I have a half an ounce, which is 15 mils of absinthe, and to each one of these, I'm going to add 3 parts of water. So I'm going to go ahead and pour, and the first one that I'm drinking here is Pernod Absinthe. Now Pernod Absinthe claims to be the original formula that was used prior to being banned. A little bit of confusion can come when you see this brand. Pernod also makes a pastis. That was what they made when absinthe was banned. They originally made Pernod. Once the ban was removed or absinthe was reapproved, Pernod came back into the picture. So the color of this one was just a light green, just a very, very hint of green to it. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the nose. Oh yeah, and there's a lot going on here. There's a big blast of just, licorice, eucalyptic, menthol. A touch of citrus as well. And I'm almost getting a little bit of almondy, marzipan aroma to it. But it's nice and funky, and it's got a nice intense aroma with quite a few things going on. Okay, so this absinthe is dry, which is why we add sugar to the French versions. Also, if you're making drinks, understand that the French ones, when you're adding simple syrup, if you're trying to offset a sour, the French ones are probably the best way to go because you can choose your sugar combination in this drink. It's got a really nice wormwood flavor to it. I'm getting a little nice touch of like a lemon balm citrus as well. A little bit of rootiness. And a nice and long flavor. And I feel like I could have diluted this one a little bit more, but nonetheless, really good absinthe, really delicious. Now it's time for the next one, which is Lucid Absinthe. This is also made in France. I'm going to go ahead and pour water in just to see if it does louch. Now again, I am interested in the louching more so just to see if the ingredients are natural. Of course, the more there's anise and anethol in here, the more the louching will occur. But at the end of the day, if it tastes good or if it's going to work for my cocktail, I'm not going to be like one of those that looks at the louching as if it's the best thing that ever has happened on the planet. So as I mentioned, Lucid also is made in France. And the aroma, oh, it's so nice. I'm getting more of a sweeter anethol or licorice aroma this time. The licorice is a little bit more powerful than the fennel in this case here. And it smells like it has a little bit of sweetness to it, but it's also very floral and it's got a little lemon balm aroma to it. Very, very nice. Yeah, the taste has got just a very nice balance of anise, fennel, coming in with that wormwood bitterness, but it also has a nice sweetness to it. And so no sugar needs to be added in the case of this one here, as far as my opinion goes. Just a nice citrus zest to it. But then it ends with a really nice dry bitterness. That's really good. I really enjoyed that one. The next one I'm going to taste is Lafay. Now, when you see this type of color here, chances are we are looking at an artificial green. This color here is really a bright green color to it. Let's go ahead and add some water. Now it does give a really interesting louch, so there is a little bit of cloudiness going on. If I did not mention this already, it is made in France. And again, when I'm tasting, really what I'm looking for is wormwood bitterness, sweetness from the anise and from the fennel. And is there any citrusy note, and how is the alcohol push? And what is the balance of that, basically, is what I'm looking for here. Now I'm getting a nice herbal, again, a nice floral, sweet flowers aroma to it. Oh, wow, this is definitely lemon balm, citrusy, a lot of little woodsy notes to it. There's a little bit less licorice in this one than the other two, and I'm not disliking it at all. I'm just pointing out that lots of licorice, just a hint of licorice on this one. And whereas the previous one ended dry, this one here ends with a long lingering licorice note, which I really enjoy, especially if you're going to be pairing food with these types of beverages. You really want that long flavor. Right now, my mouth is coated with this minty eucalyptic flavor, so a nice piece of chocolate would be really good. Things like that would be amazing. Maybe even a bruschetta, right? A bruschetta typically has a little bit of basil on top. What does basil taste like? It's a close relative of the mint family, so that mint eucalyptic of the tomato and the garlic and the bread would be a home run. But before I get too much carried away, it's time for the next one. And now we're ready for Drink Absinthe. This one here also has a bright green color, but definitely with a note of more lime or even a little bit of olive, far more natural than what we were looking at in Lafay. Let us add some water. Oops, I got a cube in there. Oh, I got two. So we do have some cloudiness from the louching, and let's see what this is all about. Oh, wow, this is far more minty. A nice little wormwood bitterness to it. Again, lemon balm, almost pine sol, but in a good way, aroma. All really in nice balance and backed up by some really good sweetness. The sweetness is still there in the flavor and very nicely done, but less prominent than I was smelling it. And I'm just getting mint, anise, and lemon balm. It's just really, really incredible. I'm getting a little bit of like gentian bitterness as well, right on the top of the tongue. And my mouth is watering, so that nice puckery citrus note is really, really good for this one as well. sour cocktails, things like that, because you have that lemon component to it, and you also have that really nice mint flavor to it as well. This would be an amazing choice. Before we leave France and we move on to Spain, I would love it if you can comment below. Have you ever had any French absinthe? What brand was it? Did you enjoy it? Let me know, comments below. I would love to read it. So let's move on to Spain, and particularly in this case, we are going to the island of Ibiza, where we're going to taste Mary Mann's. Mary Mann's comes at 70% alcohol by volume, and that is good to know because I should add a little bit more water to it. Now the color to it does have this artificial bright green. Let me add quite a bit of water to it because I do wish to finish this episode, but I am getting a really nice louching. Look at that. That is definitely an opalescent, almost turned white glass of absinthe right there. There is definitely an anise note to it. It's a little monotone on the aroma, meaning that I'm just getting a smell of licorice. Maybe if I really dig in deep, I'm getting a little bit of orange zest in here as well. Yes, I do. So the herbaceousness here is really gentle, really low. So if mint or eucalyptic or anise or fennel or licorice are not your thing, you're in good hands with this one right here because it's really, really subdued. I'm almost getting more lemon and a little bit more, a hint of wormwood bitterness and a hint more of lemon balm than I am anything else. Now the alcohol bite is there. I diluted it a lot, so I've subdued it a little bit, but this is the alcohol component of this absinthe is high and probably not integrated perfectly. However, if you add more water, you basically dilute that part out and it does become a very drinkable absinthe. So now it takes me right about to the halfway mark. I think it's the halfway mark. Well, give me a like. It's the halfway mark. Are you enjoying this episode? Let me know, please. We are now at Absinthe Tunnel, which is also a Spanish absinthe bottled at 70%. So once again, let's add some water to it. But before we do, let's observe this olive green color, which I really like. And let's add quite a bit of water to the picture here. And there we go. A little bit more clear than its predecessor, but also still coming along with that white louching effect. It's a gentle anise aroma, very gentle licorice nose. Not much alcohol either, believe it or not, even though it's a highly alcoholic absinthe. So this one here has something interesting. It's mostly licorice, not a lot of anise. So I'm getting a lot of a licorice component to it. Still very subdued in comparison to some of the other ones I had, but definitely a high licorice note. And I'm getting something funky that I'm trying to detect. Yeah, an interesting bitterness to this one. Whether it's a high amount of gentian or wormwood, but there's a tug of war going on between its sweetness, because it does have some sweetness, and this licorice flavor, and a hint of bitterness component that's really trying to make its way in. Also getting a little bit of orange peel as well. This is a dry absinthe, if you ask me. Definitely needs the sugar cube if you want it to bloom, especially if you dilute it quite a bit like I did in this case. I hope you're enjoying this video. We are now going to go to Switzerland. I am really excited about that. Swiss absinthes typically are lower in alcohol. They range between 50 to 55. That does not mean they're a lesser product. They just like to bottle their product a little bit less. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Kubler. This is a Blanche absinthe, meaning there is no flavor or color infusion, whether natural or artificial, done after bottling. Blanche means, of course, clear or white. Now, I am going to, because it's 55, I'm going to add a little bit less water in here, and I'm really going to enjoy this incredible louching that's happening once again. this absinthe became totally white in color. It went from clear to white, really cool effect. Oh, this has like a heavy absinthe and fennel aroma to it. And it's kind of intertwined with some coriander and some mint aromas. It's really nice. There's actually a ton going on the aroma here. Maybe a little bit of a lemon balm as well. And there it is, a touch of almondy marzipan on the nose as well. Oh, wow, this is rich. Big anise flavor, big boom, right in your mouth. Really, really nice. It has like a firm alcohol. Even though the alcohol content is lower, it's there and you can feel its presence. It's integrated really well, but part of the flavor experience here is you're tasting, I have alcohol. There's a little bit of coriander flavor I'm getting as well. A nice little lemon aroma. It kind of ends a little bit more citrusy, lemony in flavor. And a good option here, of course, is if you like all these flavors I've just explained, they would be great in your cocktail. If you don't want your cocktail to go green, also a great option to use Kubler, but just remember that once you add water or ice to your cocktail, it's also going to take it a little bit on this opalescent white journey, which actually isn't that bad. So the next one I'm going to taste is Duplay, also made in Switzerland. Oops, I should have looked at the color first, but the absinthe is starting to play its role here. A little bit of a green olive color, not as much louching as we found in its predecessor, but nonetheless a good louch going on. This too has a nice anise aroma to it, but I'm getting more candied orange aroma on it as well. So keep in mind candied orange flavors are really good in cocktails as well, or nice to drink neat. Oh, this is dry, so it definitely needs sugar. Another option if you're making cocktails where you're adding simple or some sort of a sweetener. This could be a great option because of that really dry effect to it. The anise is gentle. It's just a little bit there. It wants you to know that it's there, but it's not overwhelming. So if you're looking for gentle anise, also this is a really, really good idea. And then lastly, on the tip of my tongue, I'm getting some gentle bitterness, probably from the angelica root. That's what it's reminding me of. And a touch of citrus. This too is a really great absinthe. And once again, if you're not looking for the green and you're not looking for sweetness, this is a really, really good option. That way you can balance those however you prefer. Moving on to the United States of America, the first one I am going to drink is St. George Absinthe. I'll be honest with you, the color of the bottle is throwing me off a little bit. So if you have St. George at home and if it's a different color, do let me know. Otherwise, the color of this is this, it's rather than olive green, it's olive brine in color. Of course, made in the United States. Let's go ahead and add some water to this. An interesting louching going on as well, making it almost like a lemony color to it. Oh wow, the aroma is amazing here. Mint and some wormwood bitterness, lemon balm, but all in a nice, really nice balance. Really, really nice balance. Picture this lemon, bitter, mintiness going on really, really nicely. All right, so the mintiness or the eucalyptic of this is really interesting. I'm getting some tarragon, which gives this licorice-like flavors, in addition to a little bit of that aniseed aroma as well. There's a little bit more interesting herbaceous notes going on here that I haven't tasted in any of the other ones that I'm really enjoying. All really integrated well. Again, that lemon balm always present in here. Yeah, some really nice wormwood bitterness, but You do not need to add any sweetness to this. The sugar level is right where I feel it should be. Quite an interesting absinthe coming out of the United States here. So now we will move on to my hometown state of Nevada, where we're going to try Frey Ranch Absinthe. Beautiful little olive green color as well, a little bit more pronounced than in its predecessor, but nonetheless along the same hue. By the way, I don't think I mentioned 60% alcohol by volume, as was the St. George, also 60% alcohol by volume. So let me go ahead and add some water here. Nice little loushing going on here as well. Not as much as in the St. George, but still present there. Oh, and this is just like a rich anise aroma. Balanced with some nice sweetness and a firm alcohol on the nose as well. Just a balanced, easygoing aroma. Oh, wow. Definitely this one needs sugar. So if you're going to make it in cocktails, make sure you do add your sweetener to it, or if you're going to drink it alone, sweeten to it as well. But really nice, firm wormwood anise, nice and balanced. Alcohol is in there. Not getting a lot of lemon balm, not getting a lot of orangey or almondy, but I'm just getting some really cool wormwood, licorice, and alcohol balance in a very dry absinthe that's actually making my mouth water. Coming back to it now, I am getting that lemon component to it, or that citrusy component as well. It's right there on the top of my tongue. This one here is making my mouth water, so right before a meal would be a really good choice. So the next one I'm going to try is also from the United States. It's called Vieux Carré. And again, I'm seeing that common theme of our absinthes in the United States, almost going towards that olive brine, slightly brownish color to it. So that is, I guess, just our theme here. This also comes at 60% ABV. Let's add some water to it. And let's see what it's all about. A little bit, just a gentle louch going on. And let's smell and see what this is all about. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Wormwood and fennel and coriander and cardamom. Like there's a lot going on in this aroma. A nice balanced citrus lemon balm component to it. So complex, but so balanced. There's a lot going on, but everything going on is playing a really good role so far. Definitely the most complex absinthe that I've had up until this point. The flavor is a little less complex, but interesting enough. I'll jump to it even though it's not the first thing I tasted. On the top of my tongue, I have a little bit of like a slight little chili pepper spice, which I'm really enjoying. But I'm getting a lot of wormwood, so it's definitely a more bitter, spicy, with a undertone of herbaceousness going on there. Now listen to this part here, right? Again, spicy, herbaceous, spicy and bitter with just a little herbaceousness. So if that's what you're looking for, Vieux Carré is a really nice option. One more sip just to see. Yeah, I think I've said about everything. What I really like about it is this really dry finish that it has. It leaves basically no flavor other than maybe a tad of bitterness to it. At this part of the journey, I'm taking you to the Czech Republic. Hey, let's go to the Czech Republic. We're going to start with the first one here. Staroplechenky is what it's called. I believe it comes in at 70%. It does. This is made in two different versions. This one here is 70% alcohol by volume. And when you start looking at Czech absinthes, you could almost always count on a more bright green, less natural color to it. Because it's 70%, quite a bit of water needs to be added. Very little louching going on. The color becomes this really light green. I do, however, see a little bit of floatiness going on. So there is a slight reaction happening from the anethol getting into contact with the water. The aroma here is minty, and I'm also getting a little pine sol. Now, in the past, when I used the word pine sol with any of the other ones, I meant it in a good way. In this one here, I'm not necessarily meaning it in a good way. This basically smells like pine sol. I'm afraid to drink it. Okay, well, give me a like for drinking. Oh, wow. Wow. Bursting mint. Boom. And quite a lot of bitterness. As a Campari drinker, I almost think the bitterness is cool. I don't think it's balanced. So mint and bitterness, if that's your thing, this is a great option. And I always like to find a purpose for something. The reason why on Master Your Glass you really never hear a whole lot of, I don't like this, I don't like that, is because when I drink something and if I don't like it, I just don't make a show about it. We don't talk about what we don't like. We talk about what we like. We have a can-do attitude. And so when we find something, we always try to find a purpose for it. Believe it or not, the bitterness from this one actually has a story to tell. So maybe if you're in that Negroni family type of drinker, maybe you can use this. Just remember, it's 70%, so don't just swap it for Campari. That won't work, but you can play with that component to use this ingredient the right way. And the next one here is also from the Czech Republic called Fruko Schulz. It would have thrown me off. I would have thought it was Listerine from this really bright artificial green color, but again, that is almost to be expected from the Czech Republic because it is 70%. I shouldn't say from the Czech Republic, it's to be expected from the Czech Republic styles of absinthe, also known as Bohemian style. Few cubes fell in, but it still kept that really bright green to it. Oh, wow. There's just a monotone mintiness to this. Almost like a, when I grew up, I used to drink a lot of mint syrup. It was like the Shirley Temple of Italy was either orgeat and soda water or mint syrup and soda water. And I'm getting that mint syrup aroma to it. Could that mean that this is artificially minted a little bit? Very likely. And that's it. There's really nothing else. It's a minty syrup aroma to it. Oh yeah. The reason why I like it is because it's taking me down to my childhood memories, which was this minty, somewhat sweet beverage that I would drink. That's what I'm getting. I'm getting mint in a very monotone way. I'm getting sugar balanced at the right way. I'm getting no alcohol, even though it's 70%. So it's not very complex. And definitely if you're looking for simple, that is exactly what simple absinthe would look like. This brings us to the very last absinthe that we're going to have today from the Czech Republic. By the way, I must have forgotten to mention earlier that in Czech Republic, they spell absinthe without the E. Everywhere else, it's spelled with the E at the end. This one here is called the Green Fairy. Also slightly bright green, but definitely one of the most natural greens I've seen out of the Czech Republic. Let's go ahead and add some water. Very minimal louching going on as well in this case here. I get just a touch of mint out of this. Similar to the previous version where I was just getting that mint syrup. That's all I'm getting, very monotone. And I'm getting a little bit of alcohol. Now this is 60% alcohol by volume. Yes, it is. So I'm getting just a little bit of alcohol and mint, very monochromatic, very simple on the nose. Oh, wow. So this has a slight herbaceousness, very simple. It's almost more lemony than it is herbaceous. But both the lemon and the herbal component are very low. This tastes like alcohol. If I were to say I had a mint flavored vodka, this might be what it would taste like to put it into perspective. Not very abundant flavors, just very low with an alcohol backbone to it. Yeah, a touch a little citrus component, very, very, very mild. And then a very short finish, so it ends pretty quickly and it's out the door. Again, one of those options that if you just need that mint component to come in, get the job done and go, that is a good option. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Master Your Glass. I know I enjoyed a lot filming it and exploring the world of absinthe. If you did, please remember to give us a like and subscribe and come back to Master Your Glass with me, Livio Laro, where you get expert instruction for everyday consumption.